Hello, morning. So I thought we'd start with a very lovely, all my pictures and videos I've taken off the net. And here's just a lovely little video of, well, some children talking about their mother and imitating her, the sorts of things she says.
Can you hold on 1 second? What is going on? No more naps. Elliot, Tessa, Aubrey, get down here, whatever your name is. I want you to try it. Can I just have 5 minutes? Are you bleeding? Then you don't need a Band-Aid. Keep the water in a tub. I'm getting rid of all these toys and sending them to Goodwill. Who did this? When are you gonna be home? I need some coffee. Now, if I hear Mommy one more time, Mommy's gonna lose it. Are you almost done yet? I don't think I'm gonna make it. Don't knock over the laundry. Has anybody seen my keys? Has anyone seen my phone? I didn't just grow legs and walk away. First one to find my phone gets a piece of candy. Why do I bother cleaning? That's not where they go. Everybody off me for just 5 minutes. Why is Aubrey so quiet? Anyone seen Aubrey? Now say, I'm sorry. They'll give each other a hug. No more changing into outfits. I have an idea. Let's play the silent game. Go to sleep. Because I said so. Get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. There's nothing you can say, and there's nothing you can do. That will keep me from loving you. Because we will always love you. I love you. No, you can't watch the show. Okay, fine, you can watch the show.
Doesn't it just make your heart sing? Because children are just the most wonderful things. It just, all of us are smiling and laughing when we see them. And of course, you know, that mum, when they're imitating their mother, it's because they're so difficult, aren't they? You know, that's what makes them so lovely, is that they're so challenging. They always keep you on your toes. And mums and dads and teachers and all of us adults are made so much better for having children in the world. My next slide here is a lovely quote that I'm always showing my families at school. You can be friends with your children when they are children or when they are adults. You cannot be both, okay? And that is so important. You have a lovely photo that I took off the net here with a mum and her 3 boys, and then much later when they are adults. Now, we do have to choose, you know? If we are friends with our children, then we are not doing our duty for our children. We're not doing what's right by them. And in the end, when they are adults, they'll be people who you might not like very much. And that is why you're not going to be friends with them when they're adults. You've got to choose. We're not meant to be friends, whether you are parents or teachers or adults. You could be an auntie and uncle, doesn't matter. You are not meant to be friends. You're not meant to indulge them. You're not meant to give them what they want. You're meant to do what's right by them, and that is hard, which is why that mum in the first video is saying, when are you coming home to her husband? Because it's so hard to do the right thing by your children. Now, how are new parents friends with their children? So I'm about to read out some stories. This is just from one of my teachers. Every single one of my teachers has stories like this from all of their various friends who have young children. So, sleeping babies. I have one friend who said her baby didn't sleep. But what she meant was that she wouldn't put the baby down to sleep because when she did, he would cry. So to get her baby to sleep, she would put him in a carrier. As a tiny newborn, it was just about doable. But at the time, by the time he was a 2-year-old and weighed 15 kilos, he would still only sleep when attached to her. So you can imagine these poor mums. They think that they can't put their children down because otherwise they are bad mothers. Here's another one. The same teacher's telling me these stories. I have another friend who slept with her first baby. She's now had a second baby, so her first baby is nearly 5. And I sort of naively thought that at least it was something that the baby would eventually grow out of. But no, she sleeps with their newborn baby, and her husband sleeps in another bed with the 5-year-old. So as a married couple, they don't go to bed at the same time in the same room because they're both co-sleeping with their children, who would go absolutely bananas if they were left by either parent. Now, just think about what that does to a married couple, what that does to a family. It breaks the family. I mean, it's mad that a 5-year-old, and think about what it does to the children, who are then so attached to their parents, they're unable to sleep on their own. Now, what about the traditional parents? So what my teachers will tell me, those people dare not admit that they've sleep trained, even though it gives babies a really, really happy life, because people say it's extreme. I have another friend who said she did some sleep training to her friend who is a psychologist. And the response was, as a child psychologist, I cannot believe that you would ever do something like sleep training. People who sleep train are terrified to tell anyone that they sleep train because it helps babies grow and mature. It helps their emotional development. It helps the parents too. These people can't speak out because they're so worried about judgment. So just think about it. Now, I know everyone in the room here, lots of your friends and so on, will all be conservatives, so you might look at this and think, who on earth are these people? But I can tell you that, that they're all over the place. This is what young people are going through all of the time when having their children. Then, I have another friend who again said the baby wouldn't sleep. She just wouldn't leave him to cry or to make sounds. So the baby would make a funny noise, as babies do, and she would go, oh, he just won't settle. And she'd grab him and pick him up again. She went to bed every night at 6 p.m. with her baby, so her baby could sleep in her bed on top of her, so she wouldn't have any semblance of a normal life at all. This was until baby was 6 months old. She was worried, obviously, about babies in beds being a little bit dangerous. So the remedy to this was to take the duvet off the bed. They live in the northwest of England. It's blooming cold up there. Having got rid of the duvet, she had to put loads of clothes on before going to bed. Eventually, it became a bit too much, so she paid a sleep consultant to come and tell her what to do. The sleep consultant arrived at 4 p.m. and said, okay, this starts tonight. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to put the baby in bed at 7 p.m., then you're going to walk out and shut the door. That'll be £500, please. Now, this is what is happening. This is happening all over the place. These are not exceptional stories. This is the norm, okay? And this is how children are starting out in life. And these are the pressures. These are the culture matters, okay? So my school, Michaela, we wrote a book with lots of the teachers, we put all these essays together about what we do. And it's called The Power of Culture, because culture is everything. So, while we can all know the stats and so on, the reason why I'm talking about popular culture and the general media culture and the culture that my teachers and young people are under at the moment is because you can quote as many stats as you like to them. It will make no difference if we do not change the culture. Now, how are teachers in our schools friends with their pupils? So I just talked about being friends with babies. How are we friends with our pupils? So teachers let the children lead the teaching and the learning and the culture and the expectations, okay? It's child-centered learning, not teacher-led learning. Now, obviously, the teacher isn't sitting at the desk in that picture I've got there, but that might as well be the case, okay? Because the children may be at the desks, but they're the ones making the decisions. This little girl who's on the net, I just wish we could actually learn from her, because I tell you, what I always say to my teachers when they join, I say, forget about what you've learned in your teacher training, forget about what everyone's told you to do. I want you to think back to when you were young and you put your stuffed animals in front of you and you taught them because you thought one day you might be a teacher. And then I want you to go back to doing exactly what was just, it was just natural to you. You just thought, well, how do I teach? Well, this is how you teach, like this little girl.
Hey everyone, welcome to my class. Today we're going to be learning about numbers. Now repeat after me. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Now, that you might think is what's happening in our classrooms across the country. I can tell you it most certainly is not. What is she doing that's odd? She's getting them all to repeat after her. She is leading the learning. The stuffed animals are not. Now, in our classrooms, It is not the teachers who are leading the learning. She's even using a stick. I mean, even at my very conservative school, we do not use sticks. And yet she is, because she's doing what comes natural to her and is the right way to teach. The natural, ideas that come to us are all beaten out of us with teacher training. Well, is it any surprise that Bridget Phillipson at the moment is pushing through the schools bill, which will force everyone to be trained to make sure that they're nothing like this girl? Now, how are our cultural institutions? Because it's not just our schools, it's not just the parents who are under the influence of other parents. Our cultural institutions are trying to be friends with our children. Now look, for instance, this is the RSC putting on some, as you know, I'm a great fan of Shakespeare, some lovely Shakespeare plays. How do they advertise to the schools to say, come and watch us? Well, because if you're daring enough to teach Shakespeare in your school, well, you can go and watch Othello and the anti-bias and anti-racist methods which acknowledge the racist history of this play to approach contemporary study of the text staging of the play. So not to worry, I know he's dead, white and male, but we will be talking all about the anti-racism just to make you feel better about your white guilt. Now, or you can watch The Merchant of Venice, approaching the play with an anti-racist lens to address and combat anti-Semitism, anti-black racism, and other forms of prejudice. Exercises that invite critical thinking. I underline that because I love how they're always talking about critical thinking when they're the last people on earth who have any idea how to think critically, because they all think in exactly the same manner. Then we've got The Tempest over here, critical discussions about the racism and sexism in the play and how to approach these topics in contemporary classrooms. Resources for thinking about environmental issues and current affairs linked to the themes in the play. Now look, I mean, obviously, I don't have a problem with talking about these issues, but when that's the thing, that's the thing that you're going to watch and talk about, that's your main point, you can include it, but why is it the thing, right? Why is it all we think Shakespeare is worthy of seeing? And the problem is the RSC itself is under pressure. Everyone's under pressure to follow this new trend, which I have to say, it's since George Floyd, that he really, I mean, it's always been the case for some time, in my career, but it really has just multiplied exponentially since George Floyd. So how are more experienced parents friends with their children? Now, the worst of it is the social media. So from when they're little, those little girls at the beginning, even younger than that now, children are being given smartphones, and it's because the parents, they're exhausted. They're having to co-sleep with their children. They're doing all the wrong things. So they're so tired, they're unable to do the right sorts of things. And then they say, just have the smartphone because I just need a break. I can't do it, right? And so they give them these smartphones, and then the children have access to social media. When we first opened Michaela in 2014, in those first few years, so I still do a welcome event for our parents before the children start in year 7. And that is because 10 years ago, it was the case that I could catch them before it was always that summer before they started secondary school that the parents would give them a phone before they started secondary school. So I would meet with them in May and I would say, I know the plan, don't give them the phone. When they come in September, not only should they not be bringing a phone into school, you should not have given them a phone at all. And then I explain my reasons why and so on. Nowadays, I find that huge numbers have had phones for years before they start secondary school. Some of them have had those phones practically from birth, okay? And the damage that it does to the brain, we all know anyway, all of us in here will think, if we're on our phones a lot, oh my goodness, actually, ourselves, that we as adults are affected in terms of our concentration span. Well, think about what that does to young children growing up. And anecdotally, I can tell you that at my school, all of the children in the top set, vast majority of the children in the top set do not have a smartphone. They don't own a smartphone. And they don't own a smartphone because of the strong encouragement, and that strong is somewhat an understatement, that we give to families to make sure that they don't get them phones. And I can tell you for nothing that the entire bottom set all have phones. That is not a coincidence, and that's every year. I've never known it to be any different, for the last 10 years. Now, Now I want to show you, I mean, and this is just on a level of, I mean, I showed this the other night, I showed this and many others. So this is when I say strong encouragement. I had a year 9 parents' evening. The parents' evening is not them talking to the teachers, it's them hearing from me, and they sit like you and I talk to them. And most of the evening, I'm not talking about homework diaries, I'm talking about the internet, because I know how destructive it is. I actually sell brick phones to the families for £12. We buy them for £19. And I explain this to the families, and I'm making a loss on those phones because that's what I want them to give their children, because they put their children in such danger by giving them a smartphone. This is a little experiment that was done by these women who create an image of an 11-year-old, and they put it online, and they create a social media account for the 11-year-old, and then they press the timer on their phone to see how quickly it takes for the pedophiles to come.
A parent might assume Bailey would be insulated from any sort of predatory attack. We launched our 11-year-old persona online.
444 and go. One like from a guy whose profile photo is a penis.
So let's say 1 minute and 7 seconds. We have a message request.
Although sorry, 2 more requests just came in. How much time? A minute and 40 seconds?
Yeah. How old are you? You go to the profile, you know that is a child. It also says in the profile that the child is in 6th grade.
Another one.
It's just lighting up, like the inbox is just boom, 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 boom.
An incoming video call in less than 5 minutes.
I can't see you. Don't be shy.
They all say don't be shy.
Few parents know just how dangerous these platforms are for so many kids. So we brought some on site so they could see for themselves. 11-year-old Bailey's persona was approached with an even more disturbing level of manipulation and requests. While the majority of the abuse happened from a distance, our child profiles also received requests to meet up in person, especially our 15-year-old persona.
I don't think parents have any idea. You know, I showed this to my families. I also showed them, there's a woman called Ellen Room who I know, who's an extraordinarily brave woman who's, sadly, her 14-year-old died, she believes, because he was trying to do one of these TikTok challenges, a blackout challenge. And I had her leave me a voice note warning my families about what could happen to their children. I played that for them. And then I played a video off her website where she's explaining about the day when she found her son dead in his room. And you know, I felt I'd achieved something because a number of my mums were crying when I finished my meeting. And that I do this, and that's why I have my top sets without phones, you know, and that's all I managed to achieve, you know. Now, obviously, there are no phones in my school, you know, but we're at the next level of trying to make sure that our children don't have phones at all. And I could spend 5 hours talking to you about the ins and outs about phones. I mean, what these women have just shown you here. And we've written that just to make sure our parents, pedophiles, so that they understand. Some of our parents don't speak English, you know, like we do. It's just, it's so, we just don't understand what's going on the ground, right? What young parents are up against. Imagine if you have, you know, my teachers, because they're quite young, and Western, I have to say, you know, they tend to, their friends only have 1 or 2 children and they're struggling. What if you have 4 or 5 children? You know, how are you meant to cope with all of this? Will you give them smartphones? You know, our families say to us, well, what else are we meant to do with them? And then, because culturally everything's changed. So in the day, 20 years ago, I used to say, you know, get them off the TV. We don't want them on the TV, we want them reading. Now I'm begging them to go on the TV. And I'm saying, please, because at least if you watch Coronation Street, there's a narrative that they can follow, right? And they're not on social media, because social media, they're in genuine danger. And then, I mean, and I don't have time to get into the broken brain scenario and how they're not able, their brains literally, like people talk about Gen Z, yes, and how it's a problem, right? I'm telling you, Gen Z are the way they are because they were brought up on social media. And they literally are not, they're not able to own something and strategize and own their own development because of the way in which social media behaves. Bing, 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 and they can't see things through. People complain about Gen Z. I am telling you, it is because of the world of social media. Jonathan Haidt is very good on this. All of his stuff in Anxious Generation, I would suggest reading. Abigail Schreier is really good on this. I mean, this Andrew Huberman, the neuroscientist, is really good on this. I mean, there's so much you can read. But the thing is, because there's such... the parents are exhausted, they don't know what else to do. And plus they then say, well, the child says, but my friends are online, so I have to be online. And then what are they meant to do? Which is why the government needs to intervene. And what I would say to this audience, because I know many of you, because you're right-leaning, there are too many people on the right saying, but we need freedom, we need freedom. Look, freedom only works in a socially conservative society, right? Freedom, I'm all for freedom. But that's when there's a sense of shame in us, so that we behave in such a way because we care about our duty. There is honor and strength in the way that we behave, and we care about that. And that's what keeps us in line. If, on the other hand, we say, ooh, all that matters are individuals, and that individual freedom is all that matters, then this is what happens. Well, the other video. That is what happens. 11-year-olds, and they're vulnerable. They don't know. It's what I say to my families. I say, you think it's not going to happen to your child? And constantly I have families coming in to see me, and they say, well, it's my child. He's a good boy. He's in the top set. And I say, yes, you should have listened to me. Well, now let's get him off the phone. And then when we do get the children off the phone, all of the families say, oh my goodness, I've got my boy back. Oh my goodness. He was so horrible and nasty, and now he's turned back into his sweet, lovely self. They change because of that social media. So, how parents and our general culture undermine schools. This is an advertisement.
Okay, yeah, I can see you've got the wrong heating element there, so what I'm going to do is... He's done what? Bloody hell.
You can't really concentrate.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah, we'll be having words now.
Right, okay.
Thank you. Right, come on.
Robinsons, real love in every drop.
So this is an advertisement, right? The boy has been so badly behaved that he's been sent home from school. Now, once upon a time, there would have been some sense of, oh my goodness, my parents know. But when the teachers cannot turn to the parents because that is how the parents behave, and I don't think that this is unusual. I mean, this happens all over the place. But then this is just being encouraged by Robinsons. I mean, this is part of our popular culture, right? This is just normal that an advertisement and everybody watches it and goes, oh, isn't it funny? Isn't it lovely? Oh, look at her, connecting with her boy. When he has just been, he'll have beaten up another child. He'll have done something terrible. To send a child home, it requires some really bad behavior, right? And that is her reaction as parent. Now, everyone talks about leaving a better planet for our children. Why doesn't anyone try to leave better children for our planet? And I don't understand this. There's no point in campaigning for the environment if our children are in a complete mess. And one of the things that I keep saying to everybody is that Children are the future. Whitney Houston got this right. She got lots of things wrong, but she got that bit right. Children are the future, okay? And I don't understand why, and I have to say, it's not just the left. I think that this is the case on the right as well. I don't think people seem to understand just how important. I think the right are very good when it comes to families. They understand the impact of families and they care about them, and that's really good. Where I think the right goes wrong is that they don't understand the impact of schools. Everyone ignores schools everywhere. And unless we get our schools to understand what's right for children, I am telling you, we're all done, right? The family cannot compete against the school. It just can't. The family cannot compete against the peers and the teachers and the culture that the school creates. It cannot do it. So yes, of course, talk about the importance of families, 100%, everything James was saying about the family, 100% agree. But we also need to be talking about schools. And I realize, James won't be talking about schools. He's not an expert at schools, And unfortunately, there aren't enough teachers who will be able to speak about schools in the way that I would. But the fact is that we just need to be talking about it more and looking, all that stuff I was telling you about panty bliss, this will be news to you. This is happening all the time. And when Jordan Peterson talks about the universities and how awful it is, what's going on in universities, listen, they've already been brainwashed at school, okay? That's why they fall so easily at university. That's why that poor girl is being harassed for carrying a book by Helen Joyce, because they've already been brainwashed at school. Now, how can you be in authority over your child? I mean, I'm talking about being in authority as opposed to the children leading. You recognize that being in authority does not mean you're being an authoritarian. We get the two confused all the time. You embrace being the leader and therefore happily carry the responsibility that comes with being a leader. Now, because I do think lots of this is people don't want the responsibility of being a leader. They'd rather share it out. And the number of teachers who say, well, I learn just as much from my children as the children learn from me. And I always think, well, you must be a pretty rubbish teacher then. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You recognize this is your duty as a parent or as a teacher, or frankly, as any adult, right? It takes a village to raise a child, okay? You try to move from being, now this, quote here, you try to move from being in authority to an authority. Really shows me how things have changed. So when I first started teaching, and I was a PGC student, and I was in my placement school, and the deputy head, all the children were terrified of, and it was a crazy school. There was loads of nonsense going on everywhere. But when they'd turn up at his store, they always made sure they had their pens, and they were always perfect. And he was giving us some training as new teachers, and he said, you need to move from being in authority to an authority. And what's interesting now is that we're not even in authority. Being an authority went out the window a long time ago. We don't even want to be in authority at all anymore. You enjoy teaching the child, take pride in their accomplishments, knowing that their success is your success, I've always said for 25 years, however long I've been teaching, I've always said to the children, if you fail, I've failed, and I don't like to fail. And that is what all parents and all teachers should understand. Now, what does authority in action look like? Well, you tell your child what to do. I don't understand what the problem is. You tell children what to do. I don't understand why we're asking them what they want. We tell them what to do. We're the adults, we know better. Don't feel bad about telling them what to do. Remember that as an adult, that's your role, to teach and instill good habits, okay? It's by instilling those good habits that eventually they'll be able to tell their own children what to do. Use praise and punishment to support you and the child. And that doesn't mean being mean to the child. Love the child. Narrate your love. You've got to tell them how much you love them, but also tell them, look at what I've done for you. I've marked all these books for you because I love you so much, or I care about you. I care about your exams. Or as a parent, look at this. I've made your favorite tonight for dinner. That's how much I love you. And then you're going to get on that homework later. That is what needs to happen. Hold the line, okay? I mean, I have actually in my office, my staff gave me a big cutout of Russell Crowe in Gladiator. of Maximus with a thing sticking out of his mouth saying, "Hold the line." And that is because I'm constantly quoting, they're about to go to battle, the Romans, and he gets his generals, whatever, together on the horses, and he says to them, "Hold the line, stay with me. What we do in life echoes in eternity." And that is, and in those days, there was no Christianity. I mean, there was just a real sense of, you don't have to be a Christian to understand this point, which is that what we do in life echoes in eternity. That's why you celebrate in the children's achievements, knowing that you are partly responsible for that because you got them there. Now, here, so this boy, I've just taken him off the internet, but my deputy gave a talk to the staff the other day in our training, one of our training sessions, and he was talking about his own little boy. And so things Michael would like to have control over, this is what he said. He said Michael would like to have control over, because in some households where Michael would be leading the learning, or leading everything, he wants to have control over chocolate biscuits, the oven, the power drill, his sister, brushing his teeth or not, the football, the road, the car, all knives in the cutlery drawer, when he is allowed on the train tracks, beer in the fridge, the kettle. So if we want to let children lead, well, then he could lead on all of that. Now, fact is that in my deputy's household, the things that Michael actually has control over, none of those, but he does have control over which of his carefully selected books he wants to read first, and which piece of broccoli he is going to eat first, okay? So little Michael feels as if he has control over something, but his father steps in when it comes to all the other stuff, because my deputy knows his duty as a young dad, making sure that his little boy is safe and looked after, so that one day little Michael can grow up and become somebody who does the same for his own children. Now, I haven't even got into, and I know that I'm not going to, the discipline issues in schools, right? I could talk to you for 5 hours about the discipline issues in schools. No one has any idea. People don't realize just how bad it is. Teachers know. They all know. They know what I'm talking about. Everyone else says, "Oh, you must be lying. You obviously want to be a politician." I'm always like, well, obviously if I wanted to be a politician, I'd be a politician, wouldn't I? I would certainly be it by now. I love my school. I love teaching. I love children. It's what I do. The discipline in our schools, unless you do something about it, which obviously we've done at our school, Michaela, it's just off the charts in many places. Because they're choosing to do the wrong things, because they're dividing up the children according to LGBTQ and black group and Muslim group and Hindu group and so on. They have got no unity to the school. They're teaching them all the wrong things. They're not giving them a sense of British history, a sense of belonging to their country. They're not instilling authority in their teachers so that they can stand at the front of the classroom and lead and then give demerits and detentions where necessary. I have to defend these days giving detentions. It's mad, okay? Obviously, a school should be giving detentions. Now, as I said, you can be friends with your children when they are children or when they are adults. You cannot be both. And when you're holding that line, I just want to show you a video where there are alternatives to smartphones. Here's one.
Okay, who wants a drink? You want a drink? For you. There you go. Here's one for you. Look, Mummy's got one.
Right. So when you're holding the line, there's always a glass of wine at the end of the night. Thank you.